Happy Monday to you all. Welcome to Wick Live. I am Kayla Canarum here with WickNet Editor-in-Chief Dan Selke and Managing Editor here at Fansided, aka the most important person at Fansided, Mike Dyce. Welcome today. We're happy to have you.
Thanks for having me, and glad to finally talk some Game of Thrones on the show.
Yes, so we're recapping Spoils of War, or as it was online, Game of Thrones 64.
The Spoils of War. I don't turn this volume muted.
Oh, gotta turn the volume down.
Yes.
Okay, now we're in business.
We are monitoring your comments on our iPad here. If you have any comments, questions, queries, or otherwise, please let us know. We'll respond to you. Quite an episode last night, guys. The Spoils of War, Game of Thrones 64. A lot happened. That battle scene was pretty bonkers.
People are saying it was one of the best episodes ever.
I mean, what do you think, Kayla?
From what I saw on Twitter.
You've seen them all?
Well, it was so great, and then it just ended.
It was.
Like, whoa,
They don't
more.
normally do cliffhangers. They don't do a lot of those, but tonight they indulged a little bit. Mike, did this hit you like a ton of bricks?
Yes, I really enjoyed watching it while it was on. There's a couple times when me and my wife were watching, we had to push pause to kind of just react and process what was happening and like contain our excitement.
Right.
It was, the battle scene was great. I think there's just a lot of little details to the episode that made it great. I think it was definitely one of the best episodes in Game of Thrones history.
It was a little shorter too, which made it kind of punchier.
Yeah.
And of course, just really briefly, this was infamously hacked, this episode, so if anybody watched it ahead of time, we won't tell. Now, let's start our discussion. I figured we'd go with some of the smaller details and work our way up to the giant battle scene at the end to kind of end in a big finish. Let's start with Cersei's credit score. We got a brief scene with Cersei Lannister. She's in King's Landing, over here-ish. She's meeting with Tycho Nestoris from the Iron Bank. Kayla, what are they talking about?
To be completely honest, I never know what she's talking about. I'm just going to be honest. I never know. She just drinks her wine and babbles, and then the scene's over, and then I'm like, what just happened?
Mike, what did you get from it? Did you get anything?
Well, the Lannisters,
she wants something back.
The Lannisters are always known for being the wealthiest people on Westeros,
right.
But it's all kind of like a facade. The money that they have is all being lent to them. They're in debt. This guy, they're in an extreme amount of debt, and he's coming back to collect. And he's saying he's not going to be able to give them any more financial assistance unless she rectifies this. And of course, that's what made her go to Highgarden to steal all this money, was to be able to pay off the debt. So they're kind of celebrating that her debt's paid off, and he, makes this comment about the interest payments, and he's like, what else can I help you with? Like, let's make a deal again right now.
Exactly, and she wants to hire a company of mercenaries called the Golden Company to, and I quote, get back some things that belong to me, which was an intriguing thing to say. What do you think? What does Cersei want to get back? She wants to hire an army to go get back something that belongs to her. What could she be talking about?
Tyrion? I don't know.
Possible? You need an army to go get Tyrion back? It's possible.
Because she has no kids left.
She can't get her kids back, no.
I know she wants to be in power and
And she wants to rule the Seven Kingdoms, and right now she has like a few of them that are really obeying her. My guess is that she wants to send an army into maybe the north, because right now Jon's in charge of that.
Right.
She wants to be in charge of that. She wants to go get it back. Or, Dorne is also against her. A bunch of places are against her. Riverlands, the Vale. So my guess is that she wants to hire this big army and then send them into areas where she's not in control and then get them under her heel. Thoughts, queries, questions?
Does she still want Sansa?
I think she wants Sansa in a dungeon, hold her head under some water, whap her feet, tickle torture, keep her up all night, blare sounds in her ear. Yeah, I think she wants Sansa. But I think it'll be a side benefit of her wanting to rule everything, the whole country.
That's what I got from it, that she wanted to, it was about the kingdoms and what she wanted to rule. If you wanted to pinpoint something, the Tyrion, there's always been some kind of beef between the two of them. That could be, he's helping the enemy. That could be something she's looking to reclaim. Or Casterly Rock, even if you wanted to think about the castle that they kind of sacrificed in order to be able to take Highgardens. But I kind of viewed it as the kingdom as a whole.
Me too.
There's nothing else that she has that she could want to own.
Yeah. Do you think her attitude towards Tyrion will soften once she finds out that he didn't kill?
I think it's a really good question.
For you?
I don't. I'm curious to hear what you guys think about that. I think Cersei is the kind of person who kind of has a grudge and sticks to it. I don't think she's a quitter, Kayla. I think she holds on to her grudges.
Yeah, I don't see her backing down or changing her feelings about it.
It's like a pride thing.
But even if that wasn't the case, he's still over there helping her enemy, and that's still enough for her to have a grudge.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Tyrion for a second, because he's a little bit in flux this episode. We have a question from Tim Keen. Do you think Dany is concealing a larger ambition in Westeros? Does she really intend on taking the throne? Since she said 2 seasons ago she doesn't want to stop the wheel, she wants to break the wheel. Any thoughts on that?
I mean, I don't know if there's a bigger goal than getting the Iron Throne and ruling all of Westeros.
I think that's her goal too. I think she wants to break the wheel by taking the throne and ushering in better governance. We can just talk about whether or not she's going to do that.
That's a big tentpole of her too. Even when the scene when her assistant was talking to, about the slave, about her transition from being a slave, she was talking about we choose her and kind of reinforcing this different kind of rule.
We choose her. Let's talk about that. Let's go to Dragonstone for a minute. Over here, I love that the TV is a little closer this week, so I don't have to
We still need to get you a pointer.
We do. This is helping a lot.
Or a laser.
So some stuff happened on Dragonstone. We got Daenerys and Jon Snow continuing their tete-a-tete back and forth. Jon Snow took her into some caves, showed her some fun cave paintings. Kayla, what was he trying to do by giving her a little tour of the caves?
Showing her that the White Walkers do exist and they're coming for us all and we need to band together and fight these things.
Do you think that he made the case by saying, look, there are drawings, now you have to believe me?
I thought it was a little far-fetched, but I mean, it did make a point that yes, they are there, they do exist, and they should be worried about them.
Yeah, I liked it.
What I didn't pick up on, which everyone else did, was their flirtation. Were they flirting?
I mean, they seem to be saying, yeah, I'm with you.
I always follow on Twitter what's going on. Everyone pointed out that they were getting closer, and it was
I don't know if it was
tension, and I didn't see that.
I don't know if there might be some kind of tension relationship building there, but I don't know there was the typical flirting where you're complimentary and it's
and the way he was looking at her, I was I didn't really pick up on that.
I think, but John, and even Davos makes a mention of this when he says, I saw you staring at her heart a lot.
Yeah.
I don't think it was obvious flirting. There's just some kind of spark. I think that's, gaining steam there.
I mean, I think a lot of fans want them to get together. Maybe they're seeing what they want to see, that kind of thing.
Oh, yeah.
By the way, Julie wants me to get a laser pointer, and I approve of that, so I can point at those things. Also, another funny theory, Hannah says, imagine if John drew all of those.
I thought of that. It's did he maybe just draw this?
But he and Davos went down with some crayons the night before and just booed all over the place and just said, this will convince her.
People before us.
I would love that. That would be terrific. I don't think so.
But even when he's showing her those, he's trying so hard to make the point, I'm not crazy. This is a real thing. And he has that conversation with Tyrion where he's so you believe me? And finally he found this evidence that's on the island so he can show her. And there's this brief moment where she's oh my gosh, they were here. This was here before any of the houses. But then her focus immediately shifts back to bend the knee. It's there's a little, looks like he's going to make progress and she's going to grasp what he's trying to say to her, but then she just changes focus again.
She has a mission. They all have a mission. Mike, do you think he should just bend the knee? Did she have a point where she was look, I want to help you. I'll help the North. Your paintings are great. I will go up and defend the North, just bend the knee. And he's and I think her line isn't the protection of your people more important than your pride, which, by the way, is the exact same thing that Mance Rayder said to Jon back when Jon was trying to convince him to bend the knee to Stannis, and then he got burned and Jon put an arrow through his heart. So do you think, what should Jon do? Should Jon bend the knee, or is he right to be holding out?
The thing that's weird about this is that you view this enemy as insurmountable, and you say in the episode that you have 10,000 men and that there's no way you can defeat her or defeat the Night King. And if there's no way you can defeat the Night King, then it doesn't matter if you bend the knee. You're gonna be dead. And if the only way to get help is to bend the knee, then why not bend the knee? And I understand that's pride thing, and the North won't accept a Southern ruler, and I understand he's trying to get some reasonable resolution without having to do that. But I mean, if your back's against the wall and there's no other way, then what does it matter?
He's the one that's saying we need to work together, and if that's the way to work together, then shouldn't you do that?
Kayla, so you're for bend the knee. Kayla, are you a bend the knee supporter or a holdout supporter?
I mean, if it brings them all together and fights the White Walkers, then yes.
All right, that's 2 out of 3.
What's your vote?
I agree with you. I think he probably should. If he really wants to kill the White Walkers, if that's his goal, then do what you got to do to get it done.
Point and convince me.
Yeah, me too. Good job, Mike. So we're 3 for 3. John, go ahead and bend the knee. Just make it happen.
You can sort that out later, you know? You can figure out title, whether
details.
It's Warden of the North or King of the North in your kingdom later.
She might die in the White Walker battle. Like, anything can happen.
And doesn't she's so caught up on the title King of the North, but don't you want to be the ruler of kings? Like, doesn't that make you more powerful as a queen if you're ruling
She could call herself, like, Empress of all that is.
Right. And that goes back to breaking the wheel, you know?
That's a good point. She can put herself above it.
Yeah.
Kenny asked, by the way, if we think, did he bend the knee in the cave and we just didn't see it? I doubt it. It seemed like they went, I don't think so.
I mean, that definitely could have happened, and we may not have enough evidence to infer whether that happened or not. When they come out of the cage and there's that moment when she asks Jon Snow for his advice on this kind of like military conundrum she's in, it seems like there's some kind of trust or bond that's been there, but at the same time, Davos and Jon are trying to remove themselves from the discussion before that point. So that would indicate that they didn't bend the knee, because if he had bent the knee, he'd be in this discussion, no questions asked, and since they're trying. But of course, that was Davos saying that, not Jon Snow.
Right, he wasn't in the cave drawing place.
Right.
Speaking of that military conundrum she's in, so her problem right now is they go out of the cave, it's nice, it's sunny, Tyrion and Varys are like, we have good news and bad news, we took Casterly Rock, but it was a trap, and now Olenna's dead. Daenerys does the thing that no employee wants. She tells everybody to stick around, and then she chews out Tyrion for the bad job he's doing. Kayla, was she justified in having a problem with Tyrion, whose strategies, to be fair, haven't quite been working out? And does she have a point that maybe Tyrion is pulling his punches because he doesn't want to hurt his family?
I didn't think that until we saw the battle, and then he was like watching Jaime from afar and telling him to like go home.
Right.
So now that kind of is in the back of my head. Like, is he protecting Jaime and the Lannister army? I don't know. I mean, I think she has a right to be mad at him since things have failed, but at the same time, I still think he's a good guy. I think he has the best intentions. I think he is trying to help her. It's just not working out at the moment.
No, I see your point.
Another question I had.
Yes.
When she went to Jon to ask his advice, did he advise against using the dragons? Because he said, if you do that, you're just one of the same as everybody else.
He advised against using the dragons to attack King's Landing. Like, her thing was, screw your plans, I'm gonna go take my dragons, I'm gonna go to King's Landing, I wanna fry Cersei in the Red Keep, in the castle, and then my problem is solved. So I think his advice was, don't do that, so she opted to use her dragons but attack like military targets, like attack the soldiers, which I do think makes more sense and doesn't make her out to be as much of a crazy fire
and it'll
lady.
make the show last
And
longer.
Jon Snow, in that moment, had Tyrion's back.
Yes, Tyrion, I liked that. He was like, I got you, bro.
He did.
Tyrion,
I like that they're buddy-buddy.
Was like, what do you want? What do I need to go to Daenerys to like ask for? And it was the dragon glass. And now he's kind of returning the favor by essentially repeating the same strategy or thoughts that Tyrion had about attacking King's Landing.
They had like an eye contact moment that I liked.
Right, I like that too. That Jon stuck up for Tyrion a little bit. And I also like that Daenerys asked him from the first place. I think that shows a tempering bond of trust between them that could go places. Oh, what just happened to Dragonstone? A little later, we got Theon Greyjoy coming back to Dragonstone after his defeat at sea. And he gets a welcome from Jon. How did the reunion between... There are a lot of reunions this episode. How did the reunion between Jon and Theon go, Mike? Remember, Jon and Theon grew up together at Winterfell, Jan back long ago, and they haven't seen each other. This was the first episode, I think.
Theon's not exactly the most popular person in the Stark household, which Jon represents, and the reunion was as contentious as you would have expected it to be. Maybe a little less contentious. I think you honestly expected Jon to walk up and just deck him, and he didn't quite do that. He just kind of grabbed him by the shirt or the collar, and was like, the only reason you're still alive is what you did for Sansa. But I mean, this is a guy. It's almost like an animal, like a rat leaving a shipwreck, just fighting for survival. Not in a rat like in a snitching kind of way, but like a fighting for survival and just kind of running to wherever can keep you now. Like, he's not, he ditched his sister and now he's here and he's just trying to survive. Like, he's not a factor in anything. He's just there.
I mean, he gives me wounded animal. I agree with that. He always kind of seems like that, especially after the Reek stuff. Kayla, do you feel for Theon? Like, would you have grabbed him and decked him? Were you behind Jon when he was, jostling him back back and forth?
I thought that went as well as it could have gone.
Yeah, I guess.
I mean, obviously he knows what he's been through, and the fact that he did help his sister out in a big way. I thought what he did was the right thing. Not hurting him, but letting him know that if it weren't for her, I'd kill you.
Right.
Because of what you've done to my family.
All right, now Theon, he's in a dark place, but he wants to get Daenerys' help to get Yara back. But we're going to put that on hold until next week, I suppose. That's, Emily Crocker says that Dany was upset that her armies wouldn't be able to eat because they sacked Highgarden, but then she burned all the food in the battle.
Right.
Interesting.
It seemed a little bit weird. And it seemed like if your approach was to attack this military, and she's doing this, she's going like across and she's burning all the wagons. Like, if you just were maybe 20 feet to the right, you'd be taking out all the army with this dragon fire instead of the Dothraki herd, and losing even more soldiers from the Dothraki herd. Right. But it seemed counterproductive to what her goal was.
I mean, I will, just to play devil's advocate, I mean, that was food that was going back to King's Landing. If she'd been thinking, maybe she could have saved it for herself, but I think she is thinking, I'm going to destroy their supply lines, I'm going to starve them. The other thing is, though, she has that problem, right? She remember last season she was going to burn the entire Slavers fleet in Marine, and she needed those ships to get back to Westeros. And Tyrion was like, hold up, why don't we not do that and then use those ships? And she listened. But I think this was a Daenerys who was kind of
unchecked.
Yeah, she was mad. She wanted to take her frustrations, and I think that's part of the problem with her. That it's hard to. Will she be a good queen if she's acting like this?
Like she's showing the traits of the Mad King.
Yeah, exactly. We're talking about, so let's just go to the battle, because that's kind of where this went from. The big Dragons versus Lannisters battle. My big question for the both of you here is, who were you rooting for in this battle? Because we had, for the first time really in the show, except maybe I guess Stannis on King's Landing when he attacked it, we had two sides. We knew people on both sides of the battle. We kind of like people on both sides of the battle. We like Jaime, and we like Daenerys, we like Drogon, we like Bronn, and they were fighting each other. And personally, I wasn't always sure quite who to root for. Kayla, who did you want to win this?
I was Team Daenerys.
Daenerys? Fair
but
enough.
I don't want Jaime or Bronn to die.
I didn't, well, we're not sure if they did or not. We can get to that in a second.
I wanted them to stay alive, but I wanted
Daenerys to win it?
Yes.
And she did win it,
when she
unquestionably.
came over the hill on the dragon, I got goosebumps.
Very
That
cool.
was really cool.
That. Mike, how about you?
I was on Team Dany as well. I feel like so much of the story and investment, from my perspective, is her getting to Westeros and being able to have this confrontation with Cersei, and that's ultimately what you. But for Jaime, just as an unfortunate obstacle along the way, much it's like a Ned Stark being murdered moment. You know what I mean? Like, it's a person you love, but he's just like a pawn in the grand scheme of things.
Right.
So it was easy to root for Daenerys in this, and I think that's where my rooting interest lied.
Fair enough. Okay, I'm glad, because I have a bit of a different take. I mean, Dany won, and it seemed pretty clear from the outset she would. I'll be honest, I mean, the way the battle was shot, it was all about the Lannisters suffering, I thought. We saw, her burning people to ash. They turned into little pillars of ash. We saw them on fire going "Arr!" and being really upset.
Which, how well done was
trying
that
to get into the
scene?
water.
I thought it was
How
really
do you
well
film
done.
That?
I thought they set a record for setting people on fire on a film or two. Yeah, they set 20 of them on fire at once. It's a new record. Kudos, Game of Thrones. They also gave us
interesting record to strive for.
I don't know if they strive for it, but it just happened. They also said they always go for the animal cruelty.
The horses thing?
That was gross.
Was it Bronn's horse that got a leg chopped off? And then it makes me sad.
It was rough. I'm almost impressed / shocked that. How do you mean worse?
As far as animal cruelty.
Oh yeah.
The horse is just
I mean, the horse is round in that one, but we didn't see any. It's almost impressive / horrible the way they can keep finding new ways to make me kind of get grossed out. And you feel like
well, Sam wasn't in this week's episode, so they needed something to counter.
They didn't. Yeah, exactly. He wasn't there at all. I mean, so I'll say that the way the episode was framed, just the way they kept on the Lannisters suffering, and Daenerys kind of looked, serious, and she's in her billowy black supervillain cape. It made me kind of sympathetic toward them a little bit, and I didn't want Jaime to succeed in killing her at the very end when she was getting down. But I didn't not want it exactly after all that I'd seen. Any thoughts on that, Mike?
Well, Jamie, you've never seen him necessarily in a situation where he's been so overmatched.
Right.
And he's always been so confident in the battlefield, either with his capabilities before he got his hand chopped off or with his intelligence, afterwards. And I think there was like this moment where he's like in the midst of this and there's people on fire and running and scrambling, Dothraki hurt, and it's just like, he's watching his entire unit just be torn to smithereens, and he's just trying to like catch a hold of it. And for his side, he does manage to get his wits about him and come up with like a plan to try and do something. It doesn't work out for him, but it was interesting to paint him as a sympathetic figure.
Right.
But I don't think this is the first time that they've done that. I think
no, it hasn't. That's what made it good.
It's kind of like a long thing, and even with his relationship with Cersei, he's always kind of been the reasonable, normal one between the two of them.
Right.
And Cersei's just this person who can't be held in check. So he was sympathetic, but I don't think, because of who he's going up against, it wasn't necessarily, the sympathy wasn't as great as it could have been.
No, I agree with you there. But I also think that's what made the battle interesting to me.
Right,
that
absolutely.
I haven't really, it's the first time I didn't know who to root for. Like Battle of the Bastards, of course you want Ramsay to die.
Right.
Like when the Night King attacks, of course you want Jon to get away. But this was different, this was interesting, this was cool.
Was that Bronn who tackled him at the end?
Well, I think so. The internet seems to think so.
I had a friend who paused it and was like, I was like, is it?
It seemed like a person in black clothing.
I think it was Bronn.
Which would
I
be
mean,
Bronn.
There were some folk who thought it might have been Dickon Tarly, who was.
I like that Bronn has the same maturity levels I do. He said his name at the beginning. And
I'm not gonna lie, I cracked up at that too.
That was
when
funny.
he was just saying Dickon. That's funny. Your name is Anatomy. It was funny. I laughed. God help me. Christine, by the way, thinks that this was payback for the Casterly Rock and Highgarden stuff. So that's some person on Team Dany. And again, I like that you could have it either way.
I don't know that it's payback so much as a desperation move to even the playing field again.
I agree with you there.
The dragon spear killing apparatus thing, that's done for now, right?
It looked
it's
like
torched.
she blew it up. Or
Was there only
Drogon
one of
blew it
those,
up.
or does Cersei have another one?
I think so far as we know, it's only one, but who knows if they're
good.
mass producing them back. Well, okay, so
got really
good.
sad.
But if you know she has 3 dragons, you don't try to take out 3 dragons with one giant crossbow thing.
Right.
Like you've got to have a few if you're expecting dragons to attack King's Landing.
Yeah, I mean, surely they want more of them, but whether they can produce them remains to be seen. Just a shout out to Bronn this episode in general. I thought this is a good episode for Bronn. He had his own in the thick of it hero shot where he was weaving in and out, took down a dragon. That was nice. And again, I love that I wanted Bronn to succeed and I didn't want Drogon to get shot. So it was nice push and pull.
What was your take on Tyrion watching from afar?
My next question. I thought it was, again, hard to get my head around whom I'm loyal to there. Because obviously we all like Tyrion, right? Mm-hmm. And I understood why he wanted Jaime to get out of the way, but he's torn because he also has loyalty to his queen. Well, Mike, how about you? Do you think there's something to Daenerys saying that he might be pulling his punches a little bit because he still has loyalty to his family, especially Jaime? Could he defect?
I don't think he was pulling punches in his plan. I think he allowed his arrogance to get in the way.
Right.
And, on the other continent, Essos, he was smarter than everybody else and he could do it. And he kind of became arrogant in his spills. But now he's back and he's dealing with his siblings who are just as conniving and probably smarter than he is when it comes to these kind of things and more experienced in Jaime's case. So he's being outsmarted and he's just kind of met a more formidable opponent in that regard. So I don't think he's pulling punches. But I do think the fact that you have that scene with Dany's chewing him out is pushing him away. And then he's in this scene and he's watching this all kind of happen, and he's always been closer to Jaime than Cersei, so he has that connection to Jaime, not necessarily the Lannister family or the name or Cersei, but Jaime, and that pulls at his heartstrings as he's watching this happen, and he's rooting for him and he's rooting for him to be free, and then the Dothraki there is like, you guys fight horribly, and it's kind of like, okay, well, you're not one of us, you're one of them. And it just kind of reinforces that.
Yeah, good point. I didn't catch that. Yeah, that did kind of put him in the Lannister camp.
Yeah, it's like, you're not one of us, you're one of them, and you guys suck. And, so it's like he's being pushed away from that. And the other thing, too, is like from his perspective, you're an Essos and you hate Cersei and you hate your Lannister family name and all this, and like it's easy to build that up in your head.
Right.
But then when you see the person, it brings back like emotions and response that you don't have when you're detached from everything. And I think that's kind of playing his heartstring with seeing Jaime and kind of being fearful for his outcome in the situation.
And like
Yeah,
you said, he's never had an issue with Jaime. It's always been with Cersei, so.
I mean, Kayla, if it came down to Tyrion choosing between, I don't know, Daenerys on the one hand, Jaime on the other, do you think, could he possibly go back to Lannister's side if Daenerys keeps up her burn everything wherever it is stance?
Can't Jaime just come to their side?
He totally can. That's a possibility.
That's my vote.
The last thing about the battle, of course, is what happens to Jaime next. He got weighed down by, I mean, you have a golden hand, you're not going to swim in the lake. And
I didn't
armor.
think of that. I was like, why is he dropping to the bottom? Did he get knocked out?
He's wearing armor. That stuff's heavy. Also gold hand.
Well, I don't think he dies. Like, I think we're going to see him again.
I mean, yeah, I do too.
Do you think he dies?
No, I don't.
Okay.
It's possible. I mean, on this show, I want to say anybody can die at any time.
If he dies, it's not going to be by getting knocked in the water. It's going to be something really big. And
I mean, charging a dragon is pretty big. Like, do you think this was enough to kill Jaime on, or do you think he's going to get saved somehow?
Well, if he was going to die, being obliterated by the dragon's fire, I think would have been
that would have been a bigger
exit for him.
Water exit.
But I think that the sinking sequence went so long that it'd be rather unrealistic to expect him to survive.
Sure.
But the way if that was the way for him that he was to die, I think it's just uncharacteristic of what you would normally see in a Game of Thrones death, and that makes me think that he's not dead.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Like, why would you end on a cliffhanger kind of moment if you weren't going to follow it up with some kind of twist?
Whoever knocked him in the water is going to bring him back up.
And they don't need it's a weird situation because they don't normally use the death as a punctuating point of an episode always. And for the cliffhanger, it just seems kind of uncharacteristic of them, and it's something they're trying differently. I think they're using it as a cliffhanger moment.
Yeah, me too. And again, they don't have a lot of those. I remember Bran falling out the window was their first and kind of their biggest one. Other than that, I can't think of a ton of them. Let's see, someone said that he has to get back and deliver the message to Cersei that Olenna killed Joffrey. So he still has stuff to do in this plot.
He's not done.
But then again, if he doesn't get back to that and she doesn't find out, she can keep on hating Tyrion without prejudice, and hate her even harder because her brother's dead.
Right.
So I think he's alive, but
he also, you kind of in your head envision a scene where he's talking to Cersei and he's like, you don't know how overmatched we are with these dragons.
That would be good.
The Dothraki herd coming over the hill, and then they that moment he finally sees the dragon, the look on his face and the process of what's happening. You feel like he's got to go back and be like, you don't get it. This is a whole other thing that we're dealing with here.
But even if he does survive, isn't he captured by Daenerys and the Dothraki army?
Probably. I mean, we're not sure. Maybe Bronn can get the lake and they can escape somehow? I mean, that's what a cliffhanger is. We don't know. We'll have to pick up next week because we wouldn't tune in if they didn't have a cliffhanger. See, that's part of what's a little weird about it. I don't know if you need cliffhangers on Game of Thrones. It's being watched, HBO. People are going to tune in no matter what. You don't need to do that. But I was more or less happy with that one. I usually don't like cliffhangers, but that one worked more or less for me because just the rest of the episode was pretty bang on, so I was willing to accept that.
Taking notes from Bachelor, Bachelorette, right, Mike Dyce?
Yeah, I was thinking.
They do that on Bachelor, Bachelorette?
They do the
They've gotten really into the cliffhanger thing in the last couple of seasons.
Which is really...
We hate it.
Yeah, because the episode doesn't end when it should. It's like their episodes are ending on other episodes, and it's weird. But anyways, the episode this week was so short. What was it, 45 minutes or something?
50.
Yeah, so
which is still longer than almost on a TV, by the way.
Right. But it's you're seeing, and it was it's so short, it's too soon for the episode to end. You're like, it can't be ending, and then all of a sudden, the credits hit, and you're like,
I was like, whoa, wasn't ready for that.
Yeah.
I mean, I had to recap it, so I was kind of happy it ended a little earlier. So
Dan went to bed at 4:30 instead of 6.
Which was very nice. I got some good Z's. All right, so that was the main event of the episode. Pretty wild. I loved it. I thought it was great. I was on my seat. Maybe the more nuts and bolts complex stuff happened up at Winterfell, where we had lots of folk reuniting, lots of folk saying goodbye, lots of folk having odd conversations. Let's start at the top with Bran and Littlefinger having a chat. And Littlefinger gives him the Valyrian steel dagger that was used in an assassination attempt on him way back in season 1. You recall that, Kayla?
Did I what?
Do you recall that?
Who was trying to assassinate him?
We still don't know. It was a rando. It was like a hired goon broke into his room when he was in a coma.
Yes. Okay,
Presumably
yeah.
hired by Jamie and Cersei.
Yeah. So he didn't say that he saw them together.
Yes, although we're still not really sure who did it. And then Catelyn stopped him, and also his direwolf messed the guy up and killed him. And then it's Littlefinger's dagger, because then Catelyn took the dagger down to King's Landing. Littlefinger lied about it, said it belonged to Tyrion. Then Catelyn arrested Tyrion on that information, and then here we are now, 7 years later, everything went to hell.
So was Littlefinger behind that assassination attempt?
What do you think?
I feel like he's behind everything. He's like the puppeteer. I mean, I wouldn't put it past him if it was. I don't know what returning it does, especially when he made a point and he's like, what am I going to do? I'm a cripple.
That's the question. Why would he return it to him? Mike?
Well, he's trying
offering?
to. Yeah, but I think he's always trying to play this game. He's always trying to appear as the good guy, and I feel like giving a gift is kind of
just
like
hard for him because of the face and the voice.
Yeah,
yeah.
It's unnatural. It doesn't work. That's why people always get flags are popping up around him.
Yeah.
But I think by giving a gift, it's like a subordinate gesture. You know what I mean? Like, I'm giving a gift to you. You know, so he's saying like, in a way, like, I'm allegiating myself to you, but it's also a thing that brings about good vibes and good energy. And it's like, okay, well, maybe that Littlefinger guy's not so bad after all. And it's like he's always trying to keep that door open and appear as not a threat. And this kind of goes back to his like, everyone's the enemy, everyone's this. Like, he's doing something to appear not as the enemy and to appear as an ally, so he can keep all these doors open and kind of go through whichever one or take advantage of whichever relationship he needs to when it's advantageous to him.
Right.
And Sansa even made the point. She said Littlefinger doesn't do things without wanting something in return.
Right.
So what he wants, we don't know yet.
Incidentally, by the way, in the books, they do reveal, or it's heavily implied that who hired the assassin, and it's not Littlefinger. But we're not entirely sure, even in the books, so I guess we'll get it resolved. But the problem with, trying to ingratiate himself with Bran is that Bran is now an all-seeing, all-knowing, three-eyed raven robot creature who knows everything that happens. And I'm not sure, like, an attempt to get on Bran's good side is going to count for much now, because he's not really concerned about that. And he quotes Littlefinger's catchphrase back to him, chaos is a ladder, freaking Littlefinger out. Bran is confusing me right about now. What do you make, Mike, of his above-it-all stance? Like, when Mira Reed came in to say goodbye to him, he, like, couldn't care too much. She broke down. He was like, bye, that's nice. Can he ever bounce back from that? And is he right to have his priorities set on that kind of thing rather than the more Littlefinger-esque minutia of what's going on around Winterfell and the rest of the country?
It might just be like the persona that the role of being the three-eyed raven, which is like this all-seeing, all-knowing, godlike kind of figure, requires. And it requires a certain level of like objectiveness that doesn't allow you to be kind of compassionate or personal relationships, because you're all-knowing. I think him freaking out Littlefinger by using his own quote, like Littlefinger might have been testing him a little bit in that situation, kind of feeling him out, and he was like, listen, I know, don't mess with me, by repeating back the phrase.
Right, that's possible.
Just kind of being like, showing you where they stand. But, I don't know if it's the right approach for him to have, but it just might be the necessary approach. If you have all this information, you can't be using it to form relationships. Like, you have to kind of be removed. And I feel like the three-eyed raven before him was kind of that way. Granted, he was like living in a tree as part of the roots or whatever, but it's a weird thing. And you see that like Littlefinger is not the only one who's kind of weirded out by it. The Stark sisters are kind of put off by this, and it just seems...
I'm kind of put off by it.
Yeah, it does make him seem very heartless, especially when she's talking about like all the sacrifices that people have made for him. And I don't know what she expected out of return, if he was going to be like, okay, well, here's a bag of gold, like, thanks, we'll throw you a parade, or...
She wanted thanks. She wanted like earnest, like a heartfelt goodbye, I think. She's not going to get it from that guy. Kayla, what do you think of Bran's current...
It makes me sad. It's like the shell of Bran.
Right.
I wasn't bothered by it with the Littlefinger thing, but like once he had the reunion with Arya, I wanted more like warmth and
Me too.
heart there, and like, oh, we haven't been together since season 1, like here we are back together again, and he just kind of didn't seem too fazed by it, because now he's just above everything.
Yeah, I agree with you. It annoyed me just a little like nitpick complaint. Like there's the point where like he gave Arya the dagger and he was like, someone very wealthy tried to kill me with this. And it's like, you're all knowing. You know who it was. Just tell us. Like, I want to know. They want to know. I know you're above it all and everything. But if you know, just share it with the class.
So he does now know who tried to kill him?
He has to, doesn't he? I mean, if he's all-knowing and all-seeing, he can see everything in the past, he probably knows who pushed him out the window. He knows who tried to kill him. He's supposed to know everything.
But isn't he, like, then by knowing everything in a situation where he can't go through and be like pulling down curtains and exposing everything to try and clear up the air? Like, when you're in a position like that, isn't it necessarily like you're in a role where you have the ability to influence, but you can't influence too much? Like, you can't take away free will or this or that.
Oh, that's interesting. So you think that maybe he's doing it he's not really doing it on purpose because he can maybe he knows so much he sees that won't help or something?
Yeah, like, it's, it's kind of like this God complex of being, not wanting to take away the banner of like free will by manipulating things with the knowledge that you have. Like, people still have to come to their conclusions and take the information they have and process it one way or the other. Like, you can't rob people of that experience, I feel like.
I like that a lot. I thought it was just the writers not wanting to reveal that so soon so they could do it a little later. But I like that. Maybe he's being mindful.
Because if he does know everything and he starts going and he's like, this is what happened and you need to go after that person, and this is what happens and you need to go after that person, it changes his role. He becomes, in essence, like a leader or a commander, but also does he become a little bit of a little finger puppet master kind of thing by telling people like, this is what happened and you need to go after this person, and this is what happened to you and you should be mad at that guy. Like, it kind of would change him into like the puppet master, little finger like role, which isn't what he wants to be as the Three-Eyed Raven, or what he would be as the Three-Eyed Raven.
I mean, it struck me that I think he just wasn't thinking that it mattered, that his thing is, I'm going to tell you about the White Walkers and that stuff, but I just don't care about who tried to kill me. It doesn't occur to me to tell you because I'm above it all. I still think he should because I want to know. But we'll see where that goes in the future. I don't know. I'm a little put off by him, but I like a lot your explanation about him trying not to affect free will. That's a good one.
Another show or something about that, what you just talked about.
So,
can't think of what it is.
Maybe you're thinking of Bruce Almighty?
Is that it? Yes, it's Bruce Almighty.
When he gets God's powers just like the Buffalo, New York area.
But when he starts making things go the way he wants them, it's like...
And it's like, why can't people love him?
Yeah.
Fucking light, I'm calling him.
It is, yeah.
I didn't see it, but I trust you. Fuck, I'm calling him the Three-Eyed Sheldon Cooper, the Three-Eyed Robot, stuff like that.
Sheldon Cooper, I like that.
Yeah, the other big thing at Winterfell was, of course, Arya's back. Yay! Arya Stark coming back. Kayla, what'd you think at the moment where she kind of looks down at Winterfell, emotion wells in her face, and now she's back home?
I loved it. It was heartwarming. She reminds me of Ned. Just the way she carries herself and does her hair. And
her hair's like pretty severe straight back right now.
Follows in his footsteps as far as like fighting goes. Like, I think she's embodying him and carrying his legacy on. But no, I loved her return. I liked the little game she played with the guards, and
they were fun.
Yeah, Sansa knew exactly where she was, and they had the meeting down in the dungeon at his statue. And
did that reunion satisfy you, or did you want more out of that too?
I wanted more. I always want more. More loving, sisterly, we haven't seen each other in a long time kind of thing.
Actually, I agree with you. I was watching it too, and I was like, I mean, it wasn't like Bran and Arya, there's nothing happened to my face.
Right.
But
they've both been through a lot.
They have.
So you have to take that into account. So I thought it went pretty well.
They weren't like the closest before. Like, they had sisterly spats.
Yeah. And personality-wise, they're very opposite.
But I think you can show, like, you also see that even though they've been through so much, like, they share that bond and they recognize it. They did. But they have also realized that their journeys have taken them further apart, and that they've grown in different directions and they're different people. And there's like this distance, like, I still got to get to know you, because like they were kids essentially the last time they saw each other, and now they've both been through so much. Like, there's this bond that is warming, but they're still distant and they're still trying to gauge each other. And I love how Arya's joke about her list it's like become a thing this season. Like, every time she's like, I'm gonna kill a bunch of people.
And then they got like laugh, and then she laughs back.
Oh, Arya.
And Sansa has that moment when she's like, it's on my list of people I want to kill, and Sansa's like, oh, you're always holding grudges and being angry at everybody. And then the list comes up again, and like she has that moment.
A little more seriously. How about the moment, kind of like a fan servicey, just entertaining moment where Arya comes out and talks to Brienne and kind of spars with her a bit, challenges her to a little match for fun. Kayla, what did you think of that moment?
I loved it. Well, I also liked when Podrick was like, Catelyn would be very proud of what you've done. You've brought all the kids to, like, you played a part in that. And she's like, well, I don't know if I did, but no, the sparring, I thought that was cool. I liked Littlefinger and Sansa watching from above, and you could just see on Sansa's face, she was like, whoa, where has she been?
Do you think Sansa was impressed, scared, or other? I couldn't quite tell.
A little of all.
Yeah.
Right? I think she was impressed. I think she was scared. There's this list. She doesn't know if she's on it or what she stands or what her motives are. But I think in some regards she's feeling safe because it doesn't appear that Arya's motives are to rule or be the Lady of Winterfell or anything like that would kind of challenge her motives. Like, she sees her in her free time going to do what she wants to do, which is train and fight. And it's like, okay, that's what she wants to do. What I'm doing over here is something completely different. She doesn't seem quite as interested or like she's going to be an obstacle to me.
Right.
Yeah.
At the same time, I mean, like you said, Sansa doesn't know what Arya's gotten up to in the past 6 years. And what she's gotten up to is pretty weird.
Wearing other people's faces.
I mean, for all she knows, Arya might want to rule, for all Sansa knows. And that doesn't really jive with what she was like as a kid, but they both changed a lot. I wonder if she maybe was scared. She sees like there's this really capable other heir to Winterfell who's here. Could I be in trouble? Or she looks at her and says like, my sister is awesome. We can team up to take down Littlefinger or anything that threatens me.
We talked about this before the show. I love the part where Brienne was like, where'd you learn how to fight like that? And she goes, no one.
It was cute. They just had to go for that. I don't think they couldn't have not.
Well, speaking of Littlefinger, Sansa keeps him around, but she's obviously weary and caught onto his games, and she understands what she's dealing with there. And, as they sit there and watch, maybe it's kind of like, hey, you see what my Stark sister's doing down there?
Right.
You want to make sure you stay on our good side? You want to make her list? Kind of thing. Like
she has a list. Did you know that?
That she's almost like maybe letting it show, like sink in with Littlefinger, that there's another Stark now that you have to deal with, who has a whole completely different set of skills, which is now a whole completely different issue for you.
At the same time, though, I mean, I think that Sansa was surprised by that as much as Littlefinger was.
Yes, definitely.
Littlefinger was like smiling at the end of it, though.
He was. I don't know. I think he has just a reflexive smirk, but he can't help it.
Resting smirk.
I mean, a question about Littlefinger. Should he get out? Because there are a lot of people in Winterfell who do not like him right now. Like Arya clearly doesn't like him immediately. Brienne's never liked him. Sansa's like kind of done with him. Jan Royce, that guy who works for him in the Vale, is not a huge fan of him. I almost feel like they're setting up Littlefinger to go down in such a clear way. I almost want him to like flip the script and actually come back and have a win.
You can kind of...
Oh, Bran too, with the quoting back his thing.
You talk about all his enemies in Winterfell, and he's maybe starting to realize that as it continues to mount, as more Starks come back to Winterfell. And you talk about him trying to survive and maybe realizing that the opportunity here isn't what he wants. And he always talks about opportunity and trying to seize the opportunity. And maybe he comes back to Cersei and he's like, hey, I've just been in Winterfell for a while. I got a whole bunch of intel.
I could sell her out. That'd be a good idea.
So like now he's just like, is that his next move? Trying to sell information?
I mean, I say get rid of him, but at the same time, he's been the one that's kind of consistently kept Sansa pretty much alive, minus the Ramsay stuff. But like, he got her out of King's Landing. Like, he's kind of always kept an eye on her and made sure she's okay. So I say let him go, but then at the same time, I feel like he always is there to come through for her.
Right. And I mean, he might not. I think the right move is to leave and do what you say, go to King's Landing, but maybe his affection for Sansa will keep him there, but she's not really stoking that affection right now.
His affection for female Starks in general. Sansa's mother, Sansa.
Yeah. I don't know if he likes Arya that much.
Probably not.
Arya could kill him.
A lot of folk could kill him. I'm gonna push him off that balcony right now. So that was the spoils of war. Really quick here.
So will we know the titles from here on out?
They're keeping them like weirdly hidden. Like they're not where they usually are. They haven't announced them.
Okay.
And then the episode next week, it says 65 on the HBO Go, and they haven't like put out a press release, but you can go on the website. It's called Eastwatch.
Okay.
Which is this castle over here, where the Hound was headed, where Tormund Giantsbane is currently stationed.
I really want an Arya Hound reunion.
And they teased that in the trailer. That's
Right,
where
it mentioned
King's
Eastwatch
arm
too.
is going.
So it sounds like next week we're going to get into more of the Night King White Walkers-esque area. We've been down south for a while dealing with that stuff. I feel like we're going to pivot a bit if we come back in the finale. By the way, blah, 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 blah. They keep going down. Gabe Giannini thinks that was Littlefinger's a-hole grin. Good call. Oh, Hannah Moore wondered what happened to Robin Arryn. Remember the kid who suckles at Lysa Arryn's breast? He technically rules the Vale, so he's still a player. I wonder too if he'll come back in, but I'm not sure. We've seen or heard nothing of him, so.
Wasn't Littlefinger overseeing him?
Isn't like Littlefinger ruling in his name?
Yeah, he is. But I think he's back at the Vale. He's clearly not at Winterfell. We'd have seen him by now.
It makes you wonder though if like Littlefinger does flip sides and go with Cersei, if that army becomes, it's what bailed out Jon Snow in the Battle of the Bastards, if that becomes another thing to turn the tide in Cersei's favor as well.
Exactly.
He has more than just these secrets about Winterfell to give Cersei. He's got manpower.
All right. So guys, what are you looking forward to next week, Kayla?
I guess we'll see what happens with the White Walkers. I'm curious what happens with Jaime.
Yeah, of course. We all want to see that.
Does he live? Does he die?
I'm waiting to see what happens when Cersei gets all this information. There's a lot of information we're waiting for Cersei to get. Who killed her son, if Jaime lives.
In one ear, out the other.
Right. If the dragon, what Jaime, if he lives or whoever lives and gets back to Cersei, tells her about this dragon and this battle and like overmatched wits.
And their spear firing thing
Sorry,
that didn't
we
work.
lost your big fancy thing that was going to kill the dragon.
It works,
Didn't
but it's
work.
gone.
Like, it kind of worked, just not well enough. So I think that's really interesting. Of course, getting back to the Night King storyline, I think it's something that's like always there, which kind of creates this tension. But like we don't always get to see it as much as the other storylines. So it's kind of been lingering there a lot this season, and this would be nice to kind of like see that.
I mean, we're at the end here, so it's going to have to come kind of into the forefront eventually. And
Do you think that's going to be the ending to season 7? It's a huge.
My bet
Battle
is
with the White
the
Walkers.
wall comes down.
Whoa.
Is my guess, but I do not
Golden.
know. And we'll find out. We'll be back here every Monday at 10 a.m. Central Time, talking about each episode. We only got 3 more to go. The season's over. Thanks, guys, for coming along with us. It's been a lot of fun. Thanks, Mike, for coming on.
Yay.
Thanks for having me.
And we'll see you guys next week, Monday at 10 Central, to talk about Eastwatch.
Ooh.